Hey guys, today's day 6 of your Disney ride, Persuasive Writing. Today we're going to focus on our introductions. There's a lot of ways to introduce your writing, there's no doubt about that. Over the years, I'm sure you have learned a lot from your teachers about how you would introduce an idea. In fact, even this year we talked about different ways to, with different genres, start your writing pieces. Today I came up with, brainstormed some possible ideas of how you might want to start. Just understand these do not have to be super long, this first paragraph of your writing, but it does need to be complete. So we're going to jump right in. And essentially today you are just choosing a method. One of these methods is a great option. If you have a different one, just make sure it's developed like these examples. So the first choice here that you see is you can give some background information that makes the topic seem important to the reader so that they're interested in reading what you have to say. So an example I put for this one is average wait times for different Disney rides can range from 10 minutes on low traffic days all the way to around an hour for the most popular rides on heavy traffic days. So knowing this, it's important to map out your plan wisely when choosing the rides that you're willing to wait for. Some rides are definitely worth the wait. I believe that the Frozen ride, Frozen Ever After, is the best Disney ride because it has songs based around the Frozen soundtrack and part of the ride travels backwards. So those are the two body paragraphs here at the end. I mention my two reasons, but I don't get into them at all. I'm just going to list those two reasons. And so for this example, once again, you're trying to make this seem important. You're trying to make people care about what you have to say. So that's your first option. Another option says to give a clear description of the sides, both sides of the issue, so that the reader understands that there are two sides of the argument. In other words, you're just letting them know, okay, there's two different ways to look at this. I'm going to acknowledge that my way isn't the only way to look at it, but I want you to know the difference here of opinions. So you're just giving them information so they can begin thinking, and they say, okay, I wonder what this person thinks. Which side are they going to take? So if you look at my example here, it says, whenever people are given choices, it's inevitable that not everyone will always agree on the same option. When choosing which Disney rides are the best, there are different factors to consider. Many people that consider themselves risk-taking and thrill-seeking will gravitate toward the rides that are fast and intense. However, a large portion of people do not like these types of rides. We'll add a little S here. These types of rides, and would rather have an experience that allows them to take in the amazing design and themes of certain rides. There are certainly two sides of this issue. I believe that the Frozen ride, Frozen Ever After, is the best Disney ride because it has songs based around the Frozen soundtrack and part of the ride travels backwards. So once again, you notice basically my thesis at the end, what I believe and what I'm going to be saying. Those two example paragraphs I put at the end, no matter which option I choose as my introduction. But here you could see, okay, as far as choosing rides, there's two main options, at least that I'm going to focus on. Fast rides that are thrilling and ones where you can kind of slow down and enjoy what you're seeing. So I let the reader know those are the two main options that I'm focusing on, and then I'll get into the side that I take for the upcoming body paragraphs. Okay. A third option is to give a very clear, big, bold claim that makes it very clear to the audience what side you support. You kind of get in their face and say, boom, this is what I believe and this is what you should believe. So here's an example. Hands down, there is no competition for what ride is the best at the various Disney parks. Even though there are many great options, anyone who has the opportunity to experience all the rides will agree with my opinion on which ride is most worth your time. In fact, if I were told that I could visit Disney and ride only one ride, the decision would be easy. I believe that the Frozen ride, Frozen Ever After, is the best Disney ride because it has songs based around the Frozen soundtrack and part of the ride travels backwards. So those are my options here, or my two body paragraphs at the end. But here, you're basically saying, hey, this is what I believe. You should believe this. It's a no-brainer, and I'm about to tell you why. So you kind of get in their face and say, boom, this is it. This is what you should believe. That works for some people and not for everybody. Some people will be turned off and say, okay, this dude's crazy. So do choose that wisely if that's your option. Okay? Another option is to give something catchy that gets the reader engaged. Okay, this is where you talk really about a hook. You could give a statistic, a quote, set a scene where you say, imagine a ride that goes through, and you paint a picture, which I always do a lot of. For this one, I did a little research and I found a statistic that makes the reader understand that, hey, this is an important decision here. So if you look here, my example that I wrote, it said, in 2018, Walt Disney World was the most visited vacation resort in the world, with an average annual attendance of more than 58 million, according to the Global Attractions Attendance Report. With this many people taking a trip to this wonderful world of imagination, it is so important that Disney creates rides that people love. That way, all of these visitors will want to return to the park over and over throughout the years. I believe that the Frozen ride, Frozen Ever After, is the best Disney ride because it has songs based around the Frozen soundtrack and part of the ride travels backwards. So here, I'm trying to hook the reader by giving them an interesting fact and think, wow, they're like 58 million people go here. Yeah, you're going to want to create rides if you're Disney that people love. And I, as the writer, am going to tell you why you should love my chosen ride the best. And so, once again, I didn't give an example, but describing a scene and setting kind of the stage of what that ride is without getting into too many details, that's another great option here. But I found a good statistic, or you could say a quote that somebody has from the ride. Those are all great options. You could separate this option of introductions, but I kind of grouped it all together. Okay? The last one here, I think it's the last one, is you could give something about the author, which is you, and why the author cares about this topic, what kind of research they did, why the author should be trusted as an authority, as someone who knows what they're talking about, because a lot of times people give their opinion and people think, okay, does this person even know what they're talking about? Like, are they really truly knowledgeable? Have they done the research? And so the example here that I did was, I wrote this, have you ever been to any of the wonderful Disney theme parks? Well, I have. In fact, my family and I make the trip down to Florida so we can experience multiple Disney parks at least once a year. Unlike many, I've actually ridden on nearly every Disney ride currently at the multiple amusement parks. So, I'd like to consider myself an expert. Finding the best rides is important to me because when we are at the parks, my family and I want to spend our time riding the best rides. I believe that the Frozen ride, Frozen Ever After, is the best Disney ride because it has songs based around the Frozen soundtrack and part of the ride travels backwards. So here I'm saying, hey, I'm an expert. I go on these rides all the time. I know what I'm talking about. In this case, I had to make this one up because I have not been on all of them, so I probably wouldn't choose this example because I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert. I just watch the videos. But some of you could fall into this category, and if you make yourself sound convincing enough as an expert, you might choose that. So today you're going to choose one of these options. If you choose a different one than this, there are plenty of other options. That's fine. Just make sure that it is a strong introduction. So today, go ahead and type up your introduction and be ready tomorrow for our final paragraph, which is your conclusion paragraph. Good luck. Enjoy your writing time today.